The emergency alarms screamed through the giant space station as Ambassador Li Hain walked quickly down the metal corridors. His black diplomatic uniform was wrinkled from the sleepless night, and his dark eyes showed the weight of terrible news. Behind him, his assistant Kim Soo ran to keep up, clutching a datapad with updated casualty reports from New Terra. "Sir, the numbers keep getting worse," Kim Soo said breathlessly. "They're saying over 3 million dead now." The Zephyrians didn't just attack military targets. They hit schools, hospitals, residential areas. Li Hun stopped walking and closed his eyes for a moment. New Terra had been humanity's proudest colony world. Peaceful farmers, scientists, and families building a new life among the stars. Now it was nothing but smoking ruins and mass graves. The massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber hissed open, revealing the circular meeting hall where representatives from dozens of alien species waited. The air buzzed with nervous energy as creatures of all shapes and sizes whispered among themselves. The crystalline ethereals chimed soft musical notes of concern. The insect-like hive sworn clicked their sharp mandibles together. The water-breathing depths floated in their environmental suits, their large eyes blinking slowly at the center of the chamber. A holographic display showed the devastation on New Terra. Burning cities. Destroyed spaceports, bodies in the streets. The images cycled through the horror with clinical precision. Li Hin took his place at the human delegation's small table. Round him sat the representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Species that controlled thousands of worlds and commanded fleets of warships. Yet as he looked at their faces, he saw only worry and empty sympathy. No one was offering to help. "The session will come to order," announced the council speaker, a tall blue-skinned creature with 4 arms. "We are here to address the unprovoked attack by the Zephyrian Empire on the human colony world of New Terra." The Zephyrian delegate stood up from his section. Tall and covered in dark scales, with yellow eyes that gleamed with satisfaction, he spread his clawed hands wide. "The age of human protection is over. They are weak. They hide behind old treaties while stronger species claim what is rightfully ours." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Li Haiyan felt his jaw tighten. The Treaty of Sirius had been signed 200 years ago when humanity first made contact. With galactic civilization, it designated humans as a protected developing species and prohibited attacks on their colonies. For 2 centuries, it had kept the peace. "The treaty is clear," Li Haiyan said, standing slowly. "Article 7 specifically forbids military action against protected colony worlds. The Zephyrian Empire has violated galactic law." The Zephyrian delegate laughed, a harsh sound like grinding stone. "Laws are for the weak. Your species has hidden behind paper for too long. The galaxy belongs to the strong." Li Hun looked around the chamber at the other delegates. The ethereal representative dimmed her crystalline body in what might have been embarrassment. The hive-sworn buzzed quietly among themselves, but offered no support. The depths simply floated in silence. No one was going to help humanity. We're all too afraid of the Zephyrians, or too concerned with their own interests to risk conflict. In the back corner of the chamber, almost hidden in shadow, sat Admiral Park Jin. At 93 years old, he was the oldest human in the diplomatic corps, and one of the few people who remembered humanity's first contact with alien life. His weathered face showed no emotion as he watched the proceedings, but his dark eyes were sharp and alert. Li Han had read the classified reports from those early days. The files that most humans weren't allowed to see? The records of what had really happened when humanity first encountered the Zephyrians 2 centuries ago. The truth about why the Treaty of Sirius had been written in the first place. "We demand justice," Li Haiyan continued, his voice carrying across the chamber. "The Zephyrian Empire must be held accountable for this war crime." The council speakers' forearms gestured helplessly. "The council will consider appropriate responses. However, direct military intervention requires unanimous approval from all member species." Li Haiyan already knew what that meant. Some species would object, others would abstain. The bureaucracy would drag on for months, while the Zephyrians prepared their next attack. The Zephyrian delegate smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your species will learn to kneel, like all the others. The strong rule, the weak serve. Admiral, Park Jin shifted slightly in his seat, and for just a moment, Li Hian saw something dangerous flash in the old man's eyes. Something that reminded him why Park Jin was still called the Iron Admiral. Despite his advanced age, the holographic display continued showing. Images from New Terra, children's playgrounds turned to ash, libraries burned to the ground, hospitals reduced to rubble. 3 million lives snuffed out in a single day. Li Hian sat back down and activated his communication device. His message was simple and would be transmitted directly to Earth, bypassing all galactic communication networks. Treaty violated, New Terra destroyed. Council offers no support. Request immediate consultation with Defense Ministry. As he sent the message, Admiral Park Jin caught his eye across the chamber. The old man gave an almost imperceptible nod, and Li Hun felt a chill run down his spine. The younger generation of aliens had forgotten why their ancestors had been so eager to sign the Treaty of Sirius. They thought it was about protecting humanity from the dangers of galactic civilization. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Kim Dae stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel, as warning. Lights flashed red across every control panel. 3 massive alien ships had appeared out of nowhere, their dark hulls bristling with weapon systems that humanity had never seen before. Unknown vessel, came the translated message through their communication system. You have entered Zephyrian space. Your species is primitive and weak. Surrender immediately, or we will destroy you. Kim Dae looked at his crew of 30 humans. They were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. But they were also Earth's children, and Earth's children had learned long ago that when someone threatened them, there was only one acceptable response: weapon status. Kim Dae asked calmly, all missile tubes loaded, sir? Railguns charged? Nuclear warheads armed? The lead Zephyrian ship fired without warning. Plasma bolts struck the Prometheus, causing the hull to shake violently. Emergency systems activated as atmosphere leaked from 3 hull breaches. Return fire, Kim Dae ordered. What happened next shocked the Zephyrian fleet commander. Instead of the desperate defensive action he expected from a primitive species, the human ship fought like a cornered predator. Railgun rounds punched through Zephyrian shields as if they were made of paper. Nuclear missiles detonated against alien hulls, turning proud warships into expanding clouds of radioactive debris. Within 10 minutes, all 3 Zephyrian vessels were dead in space. But Kim Dae wasn't finished. Communications send a message to Earth. Request immediate military support. Navigation, plot courses to every Zephyrian installation within 50 light years. Sir, his science officer said nervously, shouldn't we try to make peaceful contact? Maybe this was just a misunderstanding. Kim Dae looked at the damage reports scrolling across his screens. 12 crew members injured. 1 dead. All because his ship had simply entered a region of space that aliens claimed as their own. No, he said quietly. There won't be any misunderstandings. Not anymore. For the next 3 months, Captain Kim Dae and the growing human fleet that joined him conducted what military historians would later call the first extermination campaign. They didn't just defeat Zephyrian forces. They hunted them. Every military base, every weapons factory, every government outpost in 3 star systems was systematically destroyed. The Zephyrians tried to surrender after the first month. Kim Dae ignored their communications. They tried to negotiate after. The second month, Kim Dae destroyed their negotiation fleet. By the 3rd month, the Zephyrian Empire was preparing to evacuate their core worlds. Was convinced that humanity intended to wipe out their entire species. They weren't wrong. That was when the other alien species finally took notice. The emergency meeting was held on Ethereal Prime, a crystal world that served as the galaxy's diplomatic center. Representatives from 47 different civilizations gathered in the Great Resonance Chamber, their various forms of communication creating a chaotic symphony of fear. The humans fight like nothing we have ever encountered, sang the elder Ethereal, her crystalline body pulsing with distressed light patterns. They do not seek territory or resources. They seek complete elimination of their enemies. The hive-sworn ambassador clicked her mandibles rapidly. Our species understands territorial disputes. We understand resource competition. We do not understand this. It's total warfare. Video recordings played throughout the chamber, showing human tactics that defied galactic understanding of civilized conflict. Humans didn't just attack military targets. They destroyed everything that could support future military action. Shipyards, mining facilities, research stations, even civilian infrastructure that might have military applications. They are persistence hunters, observed the Depths philosopher, his words bubbling through his translation device. On their world, such creatures hunt prey until it dies of exhaustion. They do not stop, they do not negotiate. They pursue until their target ceases to exist. The truth was more terrifying than the aliens realized. Humanity had evolved as pack hunters on a world where being merely wounded meant death from infection or starvation. Their ancestors had learned that enemies who survived today would return tomorrow stronger and better prepared, the only safe. The enemy was a dead enemy. A month later, a diplomatic fleet approached the human armada as it prepared to assault the Zephyrian homeworld. The combined alien delegation was led by Elder Ethereal Harmony of Thought. The most respected negotiator in galactic history, Captain Kim Day, received them aboard his flagship, now grown to a fleet of 200 human vessels. The alien delegates found themselves in a sterile metal conference room, facing a species they were beginning to understand they had drastically underestimated. "We come offering peace," Harmony of Thought sang, her crystalline form creating beautiful light patterns. "Surely there is some arrangement we can reach." Kimday studied the assembled aliens with cold eyes. "The Zephyrians attacked us without provocation. They declared us primitive and weak. They chose war. War's end," the hive-sworn delegate clicked. "Enemies can become allies. This level of destruction serves no purpose." "It serves one purpose," Kimday replied. "It ensures they never threaten humanity again." The negotiations that followed were unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of the humans begging for protection or integration, aliens found themselves offering everything they could think of to prevent the complete annihilation of the Zephyrian species. Trade agreements, protected colony rights, advanced technology, membership in the Galactic Council. Anything to make the humans stop. Finally, Elder Harmony of Thought made the offer that would change galactic history. "We will designate humanity as a protected, developing species, its full rights and privileges, but with limitations on military expansion to prevent future conflicts." Kimday considered this. Tactical advantage often came from being underestimated. "Acceptable," he said finally. The Treaty of Sirius was signed 3 days later. The galaxy believed they had tamed the human threat by offering them protection and prosperity. They thought they had solved the problem of human aggression through diplomacy and integration. What they had actually done was teach humanity that the rest of the galaxy was afraid of them. And fear, Captain Kimday knew, was the most powerful weapon of all. President Chomin sat in the underground bunker beneath Sol, staring at the holographic displays showing the destruction on New Terra. The reinforced walls around her were lined with screens displaying casualty reports, refugee counts, and tactical assessments. Each number represented families destroyed, dreams shattered, lives ended by Zephyrian cruelty. "Madam President," her aide whispered, "the final count is confirmed. 3.7 million dead. No survivors found in the major cities." Chomin closed her eyes and took a deep breath. At 55, she had spent her entire political career maintaining the careful balance that kept humanity safe in a galaxy full of stronger, more advanced species. She had smiled at alien diplomats, signed trade agreements, and played the role of the grateful junior partner in galactic civilization. All of that was about to end. The heavy blast doors to the bunker slid open with a deep, grinding sound. General Hanwu entered, followed by 3 other figures in military uniforms that bore insignia unknown to galactic intelligence services. Their patches showed a black eagle clutching lightning bolts, with words in ancient Korean script that translated to silent thunder. "Madam President," General Han said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "The Terran Defense Council has completed its assessment. We request permission to implement retaliation protocol." The other world leaders would have been confused by this conversation. As far as galactic civilization knew, humanity's military consisted of small patrol fleets and defensive installations. The treaty of serious limited human military expansion to prevent exactly the kind of conflict that had terrified the galaxy 2 centuries ago. What the aliens didn't know was that the treaty had never stopped humanity from preparing for war. It had simply forced them to be more creative about it. Commander Yuna stepped forward, her uniform bearing the insignia of the Terran Defense Force. Ghost Fleet Alpha is positioned in dark space, 47 light-years from the Zephyrian home. System: 17 Harbinger-class dreadnoughts, 43 stealth destroyers, and the Leviathan. Chomin had seen the classified reports about the Leviathan. The massive ship was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a weapon that pushed the boundaries of known physics, existed in a dimension parallel to normal space, invisible to alien sensors, capable of appearing anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Ghost Fleet Beta is stationed near the Zephyrian military academies, continued Admiral Park. So, a woman whose existence was officially denied by every government database, Ghost Fleet Gamma, is positioned to strike their weapons manufacturing worlds. For 200 years, while the galaxy believed humanity was peacefully developing their small collection of colony worlds, human engineers had been building weapons in the empty spaces between stars. Automated shipyards floated in the cosmic void, powered by captured dark matter and hidden from alien detection by technology that didn't officially exist. The Zephyrians have 47 major military installations, General Han reported, 112 government facilities, 336 industrial targets that support their war machine. Its estimated time for complete systematic elimination, Cho Min asked. 72 hours, ma'am. Possibly less if we deploy the quantum disruption devices. Cho Min walked to the largest display, which showed a tactical map of Zephyrian space. Red dots marked their most important worlds. Blue lines showed the positions of human ghost fleets, invisible to alien sensors, but ready to strike at a moment's notice. Casualties. Military casualties will be total. Civilian casualties will be minimized through precision targeting and mandatory evacuation protocols. Estimated Zephyrian military deaths, 4.2 million. Estimated civilian deaths, less than 50,000? The numbers were clinical, but Cho Min understood their true meaning. Humanity was about to demonstrate that they could eliminate an entire galactic empire with surgical precision, causing minimal civilian harm while completely destroying their enemy's ability to wage war. "Madam President," Yuna said quietly, "we need to discuss the broader implications. Once we reveal our true capabilities, the galaxy will never view humanity the same way again." Cho Min nodded. For 2 centuries, humanity had played the role of the weak junior partner, the species that needed protection from stronger civilizations. That carefully constructed image was about to be shattered forever. "The ethereals will panic," General Han continued. "Their entire civilization is built on the assumption that they are the galaxy's military superpower. The Hivesworn will likely attempt to form a defensive alliance. The Depths will retreat to their ocean worlds and hope we ignore them." "The other minor species?" Cho Min asked. "They'll either beg for protection or try to surrender preemptively?" A communication alert chimed softly. The large screen showed Ambassador Li Hun calling from the Galactic Council chambers. His face was grim, but determined. "Madam President, the Council has refused to take action against the Zephyrians. They're offering sympathy and economic aid, but no military support. The Zephyrian delegate is openly boasting about their victory and threatening other human colonies." Cho Min felt something cold settle in her chest. She had hoped, even expected, that the galaxy's civilized species would stand together against unprovoked aggression. Instead, they were showing their true nature. They were willing to watch humanity suffer as long as it didn't affect their own interests. "General Han," she said quietly, You have authorization to proceed with retaliation protocol. Full implementation. Understood, ma'am. Initial strikes will commence in 6 hours. The Zephyrians will never see us coming, as the military officers filed out to begin humanity's first major military action in 2 centuries. Cho Min remained alone in the bunker. She thought about the families on New Terra, about the children who would never grow up, about the dreams that had been destroyed by Zephyrian cruelty. The galaxy was about to learn why their ancestors had been so eager to sign the Treaty of Sirius. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect their own. Ambassador Li Hyun stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council. His diplomatic uniform replaced by a simple black suit that somehow made him look more dangerous than any military uniform could. Behind him, the holographic display still showed the smoking ruins of New Terra, but his expression had changed from grief to something far more unsettling. The alien delegates filled the circular chamber, their various forms creating a symphony of nervous sounds. The crystalline ethereals hummed at frequencies that indicated deep anxiety. The insect-like hivesworn clicked their mandibles in rapid, worried patterns. Even the usually calm depths floated restlessly in their environmental suits. The emergency session will address humanity's response to the New Terra incident, announced the council speaker, his 4 blue arms gesturing toward Li Hain. Ambassador, you may present your government's position. Li Hain walked slowly to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. When he reached the speaking platform, he looked around at each delegation with eyes that seemed to see through their carefully constructed diplomatic facades. The Republic of Terra hereby formally withdraws from the Treaty of Sirius. Effective immediately, he said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. This wasn't what anyone had expected. The delegates had prepared for pleas for assistance, demands for justice, or requests for protection. They hadn't expected a declaration of independence, the ethereal representative, her crystalline body flickering, with uncertain light patterns, sang her question in musical tones. Ambassador, surely you mean to request council intervention? No. The treaty provides mechanisms for all treaty obligations are hereby rescinded. Li Hain interrupted, his voice cutting through her song like a blade. Humanity reverts to pre-contact. Military doctrine. The Zephyrian delegate, still confident from his species' recent victory, stood up with a harsh laugh. Empty threats from a weak species. You have no military to speak of. Your pathetic patrol fleets couldn't defend a single colony. Li Hain smiled, and several of the elder delegates felt a chill run through their beings. It was the same smile their ancestors had described in the classified reports from humanity's first contact. You're absolutely correct, Li Hain said. Our patrol fleets couldn't defend New Terra. That's because they were never meant to defend anything. They were meant to maintain an illusion. The first reports began arriving within minutes of his words. The massive display screens around the chamber suddenly showed emergency communications from across Zephyrian space. Military installations going silent, entire star systems losing contact. Distress signals that cut off mid-transmission. Possible, the Zephyrian delegate snarled. Our home fleet is the most powerful force in this sector. No one could. His words were cut off as a new display appeared, showing the Zephyrian home system, where their mighty fleet had been patrolling just hours earlier. There was now only empty space. No wreckage, no debris. No sign that hundreds of warships had ever existed. Admiral Park Jin rose from his seat in the back of the chamber. At 93, he moved slowly, but every step carried the weight of authority that made younger beings instinctively step aside. When he reached the speaking platform, the entire chamber fell silent. The Treaty of Sirius was never about protecting humanity from you, he said, his aged voice somehow carrying to every corner of the vast space. It was about protecting you from us. More reports flooded in. The Zephyrian capital world had gone dark. Their military academies were no longer responding to communications. Government centers across their empire were simply ... gone. Your species evolved from prey animals, Admiral Park continued, his words measured and calm despite the chaos unfolding around them. herd creatures that understood survival through submission, pack hunters that knew when to retreat. You developed concepts of surrender, of negotiated defeat, of acceptable losses. The holographic displays now showed star maps of Zephyrian space, with system after system marking as no response in steady progression. It looked like a plague spreading across the galaxy, but instead of disease, it was the systematic elimination of an entire empire's military and governmental infrastructure. Humans evolved differently, Park Jin said. We are persistence hunters. Apex predators from a world where being wounded meant death, where enemies who escaped today would return tomorrow stronger and better prepared. The ethereal elder harmony of thought began resonating at panic frequencies. This level of destruction, how many ships do you have? How large is your fleet? Large enough, Park Jin replied simply. The truth was more terrifying than numbers could convey. For 2 centuries, while the galaxy believed humanity was developing peaceful colonies, human engineers had been building weapons in the dark spaces, between stars. Ghost fleets that existed in parallel dimensions. Ships that could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Weapons that didn't just destroy targets, but made them cease to exist entirely. Commander Yuna materialized on the communication screen, her image transmitted from the bridge of the Leviathan. Admiral, Phase 1 is complete. All Zephyrian military assets have been neutralized. Civilian evacuation protocols are in effect. The chamber erupted in panicked communications as delegates tried to contact their home governments. The implications were becoming clear. If humanity could eliminate the Zephyrian Empire in a matter of hours, what could they do to other civilizations? We never wanted to rule the galaxy, Li Haiyan said, his voice cutting through the chaos. We wanted to be left alone to grow and explore. But you've just learned what happens when someone forces us to choose between our survival and your comfort. Zephyrian delegate, his confident demeanor completely shattered, stared at the displays showing his civilization's collapse. This is impossible. We had the strongest military in the sector. Our weapons, our technology were impressive by galactic standards, Admiral Park Jin acknowledged. Unfortunately for you, humanity stopped using galactic standards 2 centuries ago. The final blow came when the displays showed the Zephyrian homeworld itself. Not destroyed, but completely stripped of all government and military infrastructure. The cities remained intact, but every symbol of Zephyrian authority had simply vanished. Your species will survive, Li Haiyan announced to the trembling Zephyrian delegate. Your civilians will be relocated to worlds where they can live peaceful. Lives under human supervision, but the Zephyrian Empire as a political and military entity no longer exists. The chamber fell into stunned silence as the full scope of what they had witnessed sank in. In less than a day, humanity had demonstrated the ability to completely erase a major galactic power without harming civilian populations. Admiral Park Jin returned to his seat, leaving Li Haiyan alone at the speaking platform. A new treaty will be drafted, Li Haiyan said quietly. One that ensures this never happens again. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, watching the final phase of Operation Silent Thunder unfold across multiple holographic displays. 71 hours and 37 minutes had passed since the first human ships materialized in Zephyrian space. Now, as she reviewed the mission reports, the scope of what humanity had accomplished was almost difficult to believe. Final report. Commander, her tactical officer announced. All Zephyrian military installations eliminated. Government infrastructure neutralized. Industrial capacity for weapons production destroyed. Civilian casualties, 47,000, all from evacuation. Accidents or medical emergencies during relocation. Yana nodded grimly. From a military population of over 200 million and a total population of 12 billion Zephyrians, fewer than 30 million now remain scattered across monitored worlds under human supervision. The Zephyrian Empire hadn't been defeated. In the traditional sense, it had been surgically removed from existence. Status of other galactic powers? She asked. Multiple species have requested immediate diplomatic contact. The Ethereal Conclave is transmitting surrender negotiations. The Hivesworn Collective is offering tribute. The Depths Federation has retreated to their core ocean worlds and severed all external communications. Yuna understood their reactions. The galaxy had just witnessed something unprecedented in their recorded history. Not conquest, not subjugation, but complete systematic elimination carried out with precision that bordered on the supernatural. Back on Concordia Station, Ambassador Li Haiyan walked through corridors that felt different now. Alien delegates who had once treated him with polite condescension now pressed themselves against the walls as he passed, their various sensory organs tracking his movement with obvious fear. The crystalline ethereals dimmed their natural light. When he approached, the insectoid Hivesworn fell silent. Mid-conversation, the emergency council session had been called by the aliens themselves. Li Hun entered the chamber to find representatives from every major galactic civilization waiting nervously. The seats were fuller than he had ever seen them, with species that rarely participated in galactic politics suddenly very interested in diplomatic relations. "We call this session to discuss the establishment of new galactic security arrangements," announced the council speaker, his voice lacking its usual authority, elder ethereal harmony of thought. Her crystalline form pulsing with anxious light patterns was the first to speak. "The ethereal conclave wishes to propose immediate partnership agreements with the Republic of Terra. We offer full access to our technological databases and industrial capacity." The Hivesworn ambassador clicked rapidly. "The collective pledges 20% of our annual production to human oversight. We seek only peaceful coexistence." The Depths Federation bubbled their representative through his translation device. "Requests permission to maintain our current isolation in exchange for complete non-interference in human affairs." Li Haiyan listened to the parade of offers, tributes, and desperate negotiations with careful attention. Every major species was essentially volunteering to become a client state of humanity, rather than risk the Zephyrian alternative. "The Republic of Terra appreciates these gestures," Li Haiyan said finally. "However, we have a different proposal." He activated a holographic display showing a new document. "The Treaty of Terra establishes humanity as the galaxy's security coordinator. All member species retain full internal autonomy while accepting human oversight of military affairs and interspecies conflicts." The terms were surprisingly generous. Species would govern themselves, maintain their cultures, and control their economies. In exchange, they would surrender their militaries to human command and accept human arbitration in all disputes with other species. "This is not conquest," Li Haiyan explained. "This is prevention. We have no interest in ruling your worlds or controlling your daily lives. We simply want to ensure that what happened to New Terra never happens again." Admiral Park Jin, now revealed as the architect of humanity's secret military expansion, addressed the assembled delegates. "For 2 centuries, this galaxy has operated under the assumption that military conflict was an acceptable tool of diplomacy. Species would attack each other, negotiate ceasefires, and repeat the cycle when convenient." He gestured to the empty section where the Zephyrian delegate had once sat. "Humanity operates under different principles. We believe that any species willing to commit unprovoked genocide represents a permanent threat that must be eliminated completely." The message was clear. Accept human protection and arbitration, or risk being classified as a threat requiring elimination. Over the following days, every major civilization signed the Treaty of Terra. The process was surprisingly smooth, with species practically racing to add their signatures to the document. The alternative was too frightening to contemplate. President Chomin addressed the new galactic order from Earth in a broadcast transmitted to every inhabited world. "We never sought to rule the galaxy. We wanted only to explore, to learn, and to build peaceful lives for our children. But when forced to choose between our survival and the existing order, we chose survival." Her image was broadcast alongside footage of human ghost fleets materializing around Concordia Station. The massive Harbinger-class dreadnoughts dwarfed the space station, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that seemed to bend reality around them. The Leviathan itself remained partially phased between dimensions, visible only as a shimmering outline that hurt to look at directly. This new treaty exists for the same reason the old one did, Cho Min continued. To prevent the kind of horror that the Zephyrians unleashed on New Terra. The difference is that now everyone understands the consequences of breaking it. The broadcast ended with images of the former Zephyrian worlds, empty government buildings overgrown with vegetation, abandoned military bases slowly being reclaimed by nature, peaceful civilian settlements where former soldiers worked as farmers and teachers under human supervision. As the years passed, the galaxy settled into its new reality. Conflicts between species were immediately mediated by human arbitrators. Military buildups were prevented before they could begin. Wars became impossible when only humanity possessed the weapons to wage them. The younger generation of aliens grew up in a galaxy without warfare, where disputes were settled through negotiation rather than violence. They knew the stories of the old days, when species fought bloody campaigns for resources and territory. But those seemed like ancient history. Only the eldest delegates remembered the time before human oversight. They would sometimes gather in private and whisper about the galaxy they had lost. But even they admitted, in their most honest moments, that they slept better knowing that humanity stood watch over the stars. The Treaty of Terra had created something unprecedented in galactic history. Genuine peace, enforced by the one species, willing to do whatever was necessary to maintain it. And in the dark spaces between the stars, human ghost fleets continued their eternal patrol, invisible guardians ensuring that the galaxy's most dangerous predator remained the one that chose restraint over conquest, until someone gave them a reason to choose otherwise.